Hey guys, so before I start convincing you of my opinion in this video, I wanted to show you guys some data. So here is today, November 9th, COVID data for Hawaii. And I want you guys to keep these numbers in mind when I tell you that Hawaii has a problem with COVID. I believe with the case numbers, it's hard to deny that fact. The solution I advocate for is a travel ban. Before we start though, I want to address that travel bans aren't always a good idea. The Director General of the World Health Organization was quoted saying they don't recommend a travel ban for COVID-19. They asked what the scientific basis for these bans or restrictions were. So that's exactly what I'm going to present to you today, along with specific reasons why it would be a viable option for Hawaii to help control COVID cases. So to demonstrate Hawaii's problem with COVID and why a travel ban would address part of it, I'm going to throw out some numbers and dates, so get ready. June 3rd, military and military families traveling to Hawaii exempt from 14-day quarantine. COVID cases that day were 0 and the 7-day average was 1.7. June 8th, the Pentagon declares Hawaii a green location, lifting all travel restrictions for military. COVID cases that day were 6 and the 7-day average was 3.4. 14 days later, the 7-day average was 11.1. Tourism reopened in Hawaii on October 15th, and 89 cases were reported that day, and the 7-day average was 79.9. What I hope that those numbers showed you was that there was a clear increase in cases every time Hawaii opened up its border to a new type of tourist. With this COVID data from Hawaii, I do have to say that I understand that there are other factors contributing to the spikes in Hawaii, namely Governor Ige's restrictions locally. So part of my solution would be included with his local restrictions and improving them. Now, to demonstrate some of the benefits of travel bans, we're going to look to COVID data from island nations with different forms of travel restrictions. So first off, we have French Polynesia with a population of 279,000 people and a case total of 10,680. They've had no travel restrictions since July 18th and they're not doing great. So just to add some more convincing numbers, from March 10th to June 25th, there was a total of 62 cases in the islands. August 2nd to the 28th, there was a total of 420 new cases. And today, November 6th, there is 241 cases. French Polynesia is a series of islands near each other in the Pacific that is currently occupied by their colonial power, France. France seems to show no care or concern for their rising cases, as they have not enacted any travel restrictions for this nation. The next island nation I'm going to be using as an example is not occupied by a colonial power, and that is New Zealand, or as I'll be referring to her as Aotearoa. So Aotearoa currently has a population of 4.8 million, much more comparable to Hawaii, and currently has 1,936 cases. On March 18th, the Prime Minister announced a travel ban for all tourists and temporary visa holders like students.
From 11:59 p.m. tonight, we will close our border to any non-residents and citizens attempting to travel here.
As you can see with the data next to me, they had their last large spike in the following weeks leading up to April. I can only assume that this is due to the increase of travel that we see preceding the travel ban taking effect. Since then, they have managed to keep their cases low, with the highest daily average of 25 on October 21st, compared to the highest spike in March being 95. Another island nation that we can look to is Taiwan. They have a population of 23.78 million and a current total cases at 578. On March 18th, they banned all travel from foreign nationals. That day, they had 22 cases, only one of them being from locally acquired methods. And last but not least, we have Iceland, with a population of 357,000 and a total amount of cases at 5,101. They're not doing too bad either. Iceland, however, is part of the Schengen countries, so they allow travel within this region. And as of March 20th, they banned travel from foreign nationals, so accept that. The day that they enacted these travel restrictions for just the Schengen area, the 14-day average amount of domestic cases was 117.3, and you can see it keeps going up for a while, presumably because of the pre-travel ban increase, and then it drops, and then we have practically no cases. So now that I've demonstrated to you some of the cases where travel bans will work, we need to discuss when they don't work. ThinkGlobalHealth.org published this graph of cases for countries with travel bans against China. However, I believe the problem is the specificity of banning only one country. Additional research on travel bans was conducted by the Journal of Emergency Management. They used these viruses and analyzed a bunch of literature about the different control methods. For similarity purposes, we're going to use the data from the SARS model. So they concluded there wasn't enough evidence to prove travel bans effective, yet in their discussion, they say, Just as the World Health Organization was quoted asking if there was enough evidence, this research study says there isn't. I partially disagree though. I believe that the evidence I presented throughout this video proves that there are incidences where travel bans do work, and that's for island nations, which is why I believe Hawaii should take advantage of our geography and enact a travel ban on air, sea, and military travel. Now your next question might be, what about the economy in Hawaii? It relies on tourism. And the solution I have for that is to simply just keep local businesses running and use government grants to recoup the costs that we have to front. We need to stimulate the local economy to have it survive this deficit. Once Hawaii is COVID-free, we can use Clean Hawaii as an effective marketing tool to advertise to tourists to get them to come here more. So I hope that the evidence pertaining to these island nations and their success with travel ban is enough to convince you all to protest, lobby, and convince your government to enact similar measures for Hawaii.